Wait, hang on, this must be a mistake. I'm pretty sure WrestleMania 38 was yesterday, and it was New Year's the day before that. Let me just double check. No, apparently we're halfway through yet another year already, and sweet baby James, we're just crawling at the ground as we're dragged into the relentless threshing machine of time, aren't we? I'm halfway through my 30s. That doesn't seem fair. Is there not some sort of government agency I can apply to? I want more years. I'm not ready to be 40 and still talking about wrestling, please. Anything but... Sorry, had a little bit of a freak out. Yes, we're somehow halfway through 2022, and with that in mind, it's time for our annual tradition of looking back at the half year that was and listing all the best wrestling matches to grace our screens. It's something to distract us from the Reaper, isn't it? I'm Adam, hailing from partsFUNknown, and here are 10 best wrestling matches of 2022 so far. Also, check out our other best matches of the year videos that we've done. We've done other ones. Look, here's one. You can click on that. You should. Please. Honourable Mentions, Cash versus Dax, the opening tag match of Forbidden Door, most of Forbidden Door if we're honest. That Sting match was also bonkers fun. Jericho Kingston, the three-way tag at Revolution, yet another classic Young Bucks versus Lucha Bros match on Rampage. Riddle versus Roman Reigns on SmackDown was bloody great. Claudio Castagnoli's match, fuck it, it's been a good year, folks. Number 10, Anarchy in the Arena, Double or Nothing. Fine. I caught a bit of flack in the comments of our 10 best AEW Year 3 matches list for only having Anarchy in the Arena as an honourable mention, and while I stress that these wrestling lists don't matter, you guys, this is a bit more of a collaborative team wrestle talk list, so here we go. Also, on a daytime rewatch and not, at 3 a.m. in the morning, the frenetic editing of this match is a little less of a headache, and the absolute bonkers spots shine through a little more, some of which were instantly iconic, like Eddie Kingston with the gas can, which has already become a meme because of course it has. John Moxley doing his John Moxley silly barbed wire thing, Wild Thing playing on a loop like the Matrix is glitched under the strain of kaleidoscopic violence, the ring being taken apart and used to murder Bryan Danielson. It's a giant mess, but it's the kind of mess that weirdly sticks in your brain long after you've forgotten about the beautifully orchestrated flipperoo matches. Wrestling has room for ugly brawls, and this was the ugliest of ugly bug brawls. Number 9, Cody Rhodes versus Sammy Guevara, Beach Break. And talking of memorable spots, this match really has only two things going for it in terms of legacy, but they're both pretty big. Number 1, that cutter spot, which it's the perfect marriage of something that's both ludicrous in its ambition and faultless in execution. It deserves to be in the Spot Hall of Fame alongside the TLC 2 midair spear. And 2, it's Cody's AEW swan song. Cody Rhodes, Mr. AEW, Mr. you, Big Chair, the spokesman, Tony Khan's Triple H. This is his final match for the company, giving extra weight to just how hell for leather both guys went in crafting. Honestly, one of the greatest ladder matches ever. Cody's had an unreal year so far, with 2 Big Daddy Dave Meltzer 5-star matches under his weightlifting belt, and that's just a little spoiler for later in the list, because yeah, there's another one here. Whatever could it be? Cody, bizarrely, might be on the best run of his career in the company that turned him into a cosmic Cheshire Cat nut job, but he's had some stonkers in AEW, not least his parting shot. Let's just look at that cutter spot one more time. So goddamn good! Number 8, Will Ospreay versus Orange Cassidy, Forbidden Door. For a show that seemed to be suffering under the most intense injury-centric Warlock's curse since WrestleMania 32. Remember the show that everyone missed because of shoulder injuries? Forbidden Door was a bloody wonderful bit of Elseworlds wrestling for the sake of it insanity. Stuffed to the gills with great matches, if not great stories. You could pick from about 5 different matches of the night, but this one's mine and I'm writing this list, so shut up. People were a bit deflated about this match going into it because it was supposed to be Ospreay versus Andrade before Triple H said no gracias, but these lads delivered, calling to mind another personal favourite AEW match, Orange Cassidy versus Pac. Much like that match, everyone knew Cassidy was going to lose, but wanted to see how much fun it would be, and it is a lot of fun. OC matches are a one-joke affair, but it's a very good joke, and watching Pockets Man versus a flamboyantly obnoxious man who just so happens to be one of the best wrestlers in the world but keeps getting flummoxed by the Pockets Man doing pocket parodies of all his shit. It's just a bunch of fun with some ludicrous near falls that make you just about believe. Oh, and also that pop for Shibata at the end is utterly heartwarming. Number 7, CM Punk versus MJF 2, Revolution. Old man violence. It's been a year for CM Punk. All-time great feud with MJF, winning the AEW championship, then immediately going down with injury. Life is a roller coaster. Those ups are great, but those downs will get you. What While Punk is on the shelf, let's reminisce about his best match of the year and his best match in AEW so far. Some folk will like the Punk-Page match more for the moment of Punk winning, but for me, this is the best told story by a wrestler who specializes in telling them well. We've covered it a bunch, but it's worth talking about again just because it's one of the most nuanced death matches I've ever seen. It is grotesque and way too much, both in length and on the infamous Muta scale. But while viscera is something I don't normally care for in my wrestling, here, like Baby Bear's porridge, it was just right. Punk being forced to go to a dark place, MJF realizing what he'd gotten himself into and trying to emotionally manipulate his way out, the crowd just wanting both men who by that point had each shown sides of themselves not seen before in AEW to just stop hurting each other by the end of it. It hit right for me. Plus that Wardlow bit, crazy charisma on the big man. Number 6, Johnny Knoxville versus Sami Zayn, WrestleMania 38 Night 2. And speaking of a bunch of fun, honestly, there aren't that many WWE matches on this list. I know, we're fed bad assholes apparently, but you're goddamn right that the Jackass match is one of the ones on this list. A million hoorays. Enjoying wrestling can be hard sometimes. Breaking news seems to be always so bleak, but sometimes it can remind you how professional wrestling can be the funniest joke ever told. Also, watching wrestling with people who are having a good time is infectious. And I just want to say, watching the Jackass match at WrestleMania 38 with Luke, the early 2000s never-ended Owen, genuinely one of my greatest joys this year. We had so much fun watching this match. On paper, it's an absolute train wreck. One of the industry's best workers being routinely embarrassed by a group of celebrities who aren't even in their prime of relevancy. Should have hated it. Couldn't. It had Wee Man doing the Hulk Hogan Andre spot. That was genuinely one of the biggest pops of WrestleMania weekend. Look how happy we are watching it. They did the big hand, the giant mousetrap at the end. It's stupid, happy. Number 5, Kazuchika Okada versus Will Ospreay, Wrestle Kingdom 16 Night 2. You can always rely on New Japan's WrestleMania Wrestle Kingdom to deliver a match of the year. This time around, it was Okada defending his newly won IWGP World Heavyweight Championship against former Chaos Comrade and air quotes real world champion Will Ospreay. The first half of the match is a typical Okada Wrestle Kingdom main event, a technically sound 20 minutes of carefully placed hyper-real violence set to the polite applause of the Tokyo Dome crowd, followed by 10 minutes of relative insanity. The physical wizardry on display in this match is fairly unreal. Okada catching a flipping senton over the ropes into a tombstone, Ospreay countering an Okada dropkick into a beautiful powerbomb. The final section of the match sees a run of stolen finishes, Ospreay taking pages out of the book of many of Okada's opponents before the Rainmaker finally puts him away. Honestly, it's a little more subdued than some of the Wrestle Kingdom main events we come to expect from New Japan, but that doesn't make this anything less of an absolute classic. Number 4, Becky Lynch versus Bianca Belair, WrestleMania 38 Night 1. Best match of Mania weekend, bar none, bar absolute none. Proper wrestling match, I mean, not counting the silly ones, of which there were many. What a silly WrestleMania it was. Anyway, Becky and Bianca went to war with each other on night 1, somehow managing to up the quality from Bianca and Sasha the year before. While Becky versus Bianca at SummerSlam last year might have made everyone very cross, us especially, hard to say it wasn't worth it for a payoff this good. A brutal match perfectly suited to the months and months of slow build. Both women are really at the top of their game here. Big time Bex is showboating, using Bianca's hair against her. Belair putting in an all-time gutsy babyface performance, especially after that gruesome spot that saw Becky smash Bianca right above the eye with a slightly misjudged Molly go round. That kind of injury could derail a match, but in this case the danger actually elevated the whole affair, adding that blood in the water style tension to the crowd, but also complementing how much of a megastar Bianca is, finishing the match with her eye gradually swelling shut. It may not have had the emotion of last year's women's main event, but from a violence and athleticism perspective, it's a notch or two above, and a strong contender for the best women's match in Mania history. Number 3, FTR versus the Briscoes, Super Card of Honor. Dream matches are a double-edged sword. AEW is on a dream match kick right now, acquiring ROH, funneling a bunch of beloved WWE guys into their roster, collaborating with New Japan. 2022 is only halfway done and we've already had a glut of them, but the best is probably this one. 2 roughneck you career tag teams meeting for the first time, and it lived up to the hype and more, beginning what's been a Cinderella year for Dax and Cash. It's hard hitting, that shot of Dax's bloodied knuckles, fast because you're never prepared for how fast the Briscoes can be, brutal with chops stiffer than a 2-day-old corpse. It's in front of a molten hot crowd, watertight tag team psychology. All the major food groups of really great tag team wrestling are here. Also, the referee caught a chair in a make you smile from ear to ear lightning in a bottle spot. Mark Briscoe Briscoe's hot tag is a stupidly wonderful example of redneck kung fu. The match starts off hot with chops and strikes aplenty, but when the match kicks into a second gear with ridiculous tag team offense like FTR's powerbomb into a splash, it becomes something truly special. Number 2, FTR versus the Young Bucks 2, Dynamite. If their match against the Briscoes started FTR's white-hot run this year, then this match cemented it. Ever since Full Gear 2020, fans have been clamoring for a rematch between FTR and the Young Bucks, but this time in front of a proper crowd. AEW could have waited for a pay-per-view, but instead chose to strike while the FTR was hot and present it in the main event of free weekly TV. Thank you very much indeed. With the presence of full-throated fans, the match is even better than their instant classic 2 years ago, with Dax and Cash reversing their fortunes not only in finally knocking off the crown douche princes of AEW, but doing it on their terms, wrestling a far more taut, emotional, tag psychological match. FTR have spent almost their entire careers as dickhead heels, but it's been amazing to see them flourish as baby faces with Dax Harwood's hot tag game on point. Also, FTR's match with Forbidden Door was a bit of alright, wasn't it? All the gold in the world. Give them all the gold in the world. And number 1, Cody Rhodes versus Seth Rollins, Hell in a Cell. Holy shit though. Holy shit though, wrestling isn't real except when it f***ing is, turns out. To be completely transparent, people shouldn't wrestle through an injury. This is not something we are entitled to as fans, but holy moly, this all came together to create the most actually brutal Hell in a Cell match since the TV14 era. In case you don't know, Cody Rhodes tore his pectoral muscle clean off the bone shortly before his blow-off cell match against Seth Rollins, but in an act of professional bravado that shames almost everyone else wrestling today, he went ahead with it anyway, complete with awful looking skin discoloration that looked like he'd been putting out chip pan fires with his f***ing armpit. Like the Bianca Becky situation, but times 1,000, the ever-present and very real injury turned this into the realest wrestling match of the year, elevating every single spot into an eye-watering display of Rollins' villainy and Rhodes' courage. So often, especially in WWE matches, babyfaces getting beaten down and, quote, overcoming the odds to pull out a heroic victory feels contrived. In this case, when Rhodes is finally able to scream his way through, lifting that sledgehammer in the match's closing sequence, it felt viscerally, heart-stoppingly real and legitimately heroic. Again, it's not a feat that you necessarily want wrestlers to achieve, but for the love of Dusty, Cody Rhodes is an unbelievable badass, and the tangible drama of his struggle turned this into a once-in-a-lifetime viewing experience, all of the stars. And that's our list. What's been your favorite match of the year so far? Let us know in the comments. If you like this video, why not share it around, and make sure you subscribe to partsFUNknown for more silly wrestling content, and never forget to jam that jam.